notification to say it started. Ah, there we go. We've started. We're recording. That'll be a funny start to it, won't it? Me saying, we're off. Okay, I'm also going to share my screen. And if Rose, I'm going to go to you because I can still see your face. If you can give me a thumbs up to let me know that you can see it when you can. Here we are. Cool. There we go. Yes, perfect. Okay. So without further ado or any more hesitations and stalling, I shall get us started on the welcome to the semi-formal curriculum and the launch of the semi-formal curriculum. So for some time now, we have been using this term, semi-formal curriculum. You'll have also heard the pre-formal curriculum and the formal curriculum. What with the pandemic and numerous other things, we haven't had the official formal launch of the semi-formal curriculum yet. So the virtual SEN conference that we're putting on this week is the perfect platform to launch and give you an overview. I'm not going into the nitty-gritty, all of the in-depth that I share with the teachers. I'm giving you the kind of the parent-friendly version because I can get very in-depth and you know, talking about it at a very fine level. So I'm going to be sharing the family-friendly versions. But as I say, if anybody has any questions, you can either send through to Maria, or we might have a bit of time at the end to answer those. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gareth Smith, and I am the department lead here at Sevendale for the semi-formal curriculum. The pre-formal, semi-formal and formal curriculum models, they have been born out of a research-based approach. Many schools, special schools, now adopt this approach towards their curriculum. It was originally born out of some research and thinking by a researcher called Dr. Penny Lacey, and has been continued on by many other academics who are kind of leading the way in kind of advising specialist schools on ways that they can structure the curriculum and meet the needs of all of the different learners. Because here at Sevendale School, you know, not only do we have a huge age range, but we have a huge range of different learning styles, of cognitive abilities, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of those students. So the pre-formal, semi-formal and formal curriculum models are born out of that. We, in the semi-formal department, we have purchased a package called Equals. So you can go to the Equals website, which I thought I had to hand. Yes, I do. www.equals.co.uk. So if you did want any further information, then you can go to that website, www.equals.co.uk. It's an off-the-shelf package you can buy, but we don't use it in that way. We, as we do with so many things, you know, we'll magpie the bits that we like from it, and we'll take the things that are of most value and meaning to our students. But there's an awful lot of information on there. It is aimed at teachers and schools rather than families, but there is training that you can always sign up to if you did want that kind of specific level of information. But I'm, you know, hoping as we return to some kind of normal, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person again someday. I miss that so much, the gaggle of people in reception and coming shepherding you round to one of the halls. We'll hopefully be able to, you know, have this as a focus when you get back into classrooms and seeing learning. You know, we'll be actually giving you those concrete examples of, okay, well, what does this that you were talking about actually look like for my child in this class group? Okay, so curriculum design. So when we're talking about curriculum design, we talk about the intent, which is what do we want our curriculum to do? We talk about the implementation. how are we going to do that within the semi-formal department? And we then also talk about the impact. How will we know that we have achieved our intentions? So the 3 I's: intent, implementation, and impact. And this is how I'm going to structure the presentation for you as well. So our next slide will be the semi-formal curriculum intent. Then we'll cover, okay, so that's our goal. How do we actually go about achieving that day to day? And then we'll look at the impact. So what is it that we're doing to measure how effective we are being with how we're implementing the curriculum towards our intent, our outcome. Okay, so our intent within the semi-formal department are for our students to be confident communicators. Communication is absolutely key and at the heart of everything. Communication can be very personalized. It can be difficult for many of our students in the semi-formal department to find their form of communication that's truly meaningful, initially to their group of, to their families, to their group of adults who support them very closely in school, but then also to find that formalized communication system that enables them to communicate with the wider world. So communication is absolutely at the heart of everything that we do. We always talk about having a total communication approach here at Sevendale Academy. I'll always talk about that and share kind of what that actually means. It is as it says on the tin. It's a total communication. We look at absolutely everything in terms of what communication is it carrying. So it's not just that we sign and we use Makaton here at Sevendale, or that we use symbols. It's that we will look at a student in a moment and we will think, okay, what are they communicating to me? That will be through formal communication, informal communication, whether that's body language, positioning within a room, the words that they're using. If language is echolalic, what are they choosing to echo back? What are they choosing not to echo? What's the reasoning behind all of this? So that's the total communication approach that's throughout the whole school, because of course our semi-formal students don't just stay within the semi-formal department all the time. They're seeing students from the other departments. There's always potential for movement between those different pathways as well, as students progress through the school and through their journey. But we want our students to be confident communicators who are effectively self-advocating and being able to shape their own lives. They need to know that what I do can have an impact on the world around me. I'm not just a passive person passing through this world. I can have an impact. That will mean different things for our different students, and at whatever level that is, that's the ultimate goal for our students. So we're doing everything that we can to engage them, to motivate them, and to develop that communication so that they have a voice. What we do is we start with each student's specific needs. We highlight their strengths. So we say, this student is really good at using their hands to communicate. So let's use that strength and let's help them to refine those movements so that we get consistency in a sign. Or we might see that actually this student's got really great social interpersonal skills. That's going to be the key motivator with this student, is do everything with group work, and let's have a lot of kind of peer support here. We'll also identify those areas to develop, and with both of these, the work that we do between home and school is really key. Those EHCP meetings and the formal and informal conversations that we have all the time, they're informing what we do and what we prioritize for your children. We plan out steps of progression, which then build on these foundations. We ensure that we're guided both by child development and personal aspirations. So, we know, it's in our training as teachers that we understand the developmental steps that might be needed to achieve an outcome or a goal. But we also know, our students aren't necessarily progressing in that step-by-step way. There may be areas that they're really great at, areas of interest, aspirations that you have as a family, and we'll take those into account when we're planning out that progress and those steps for success as well. We offer creative and flexible approaches to the curriculum. Creativity is absolutely key. I've said it before, motivation is key. If a child is motivated by their learning, by the teacher that's in front of them, by the lesson, they're going to be engaged and they're going to be taking things on board and they're going to be learning. A flexible approach is very important as well. You know, we can plan as much as we want, just as, you know, you guys can plan out your weekend, but how often does it actually go to plan? You know, we have to be flexible. We have to have 100 tricks in our bag that we can pull out to either steer something back in a different direction or to go with the flow and see, actually, the children here are learning, leading their learning really well. Let's follow that and see what outcomes there are there. We do all of this, of course, to make sure that our students are able to achieve their potential. We strive to never limit our students, to not put that ceiling on their opportunities. We work closely with other departments to enable opportunities. So, I've talked about, if a student is in semi-formal, but actually we're seeing that they're working in more of a formal way, we can very much work with the formal department, do some collaborative work, potentially even move department. We do what is best for the student, and the family will always be involved in those discussions. We will celebrate strengths and we always ensure that our students are challenged. We are aware of pitfalls of learned helplessness. A student who will always say, I need help with this, I need help to tie my shoes, I can't do my laces, I need Velcro. But actually, with that challenge and with that push, they do have the dexterity to be able to do it. They do have the understanding. So it's a fine line to get that balance of the right amount of support and the right amount of challenge. Okay, so that's our intent. So how do we actually go about doing that? The implementation. So these arrows are the next few slides that we're going to see, and I'll go through and explain each of those. So the first will be an SLD curriculum. So originally the pre-formal, semi-formal and formal curriculum models were related to the kind of diversity groups, and the semi-formal is the SLD version of the curriculum, so severe learning disabilities. And it is important to take into account kind of what does that mean. Okay, so what advice is out there, what research is out there that helps us to inform an approach for students with severe learning disabilities, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. We'll then talk about the 3 different approaches to curriculum that there are within the semi-formal department. So there's the Explore, the Connect and the Apply, and those are to ensure that we're meeting the needs of each of those different learners. So we'll define those and give some specific examples when we get to those slides. Then we'll look at process-based teaching, and I'll explain what that means in a little bit. But there's different schools of thought and different schools of thought, no pun intended. Schools will work in different ways. Within the semi-formal department, we very much follow a process-based teaching model. We'll then look at the areas of learning. So what are the skills and the knowledge, those specific areas, and then how we translate that to a timetable, an example of a timetable. And I'll talk you through, within a lesson that you would see on a timetable that goes home, such as an art lesson. Okay, well, what is the learning then that we're getting out of that art lesson? And then we'll talk about a thematic approach as well. So as a school, we've decided that we're going to have a thematic approach. So we'll talk about the benefits of that thematic approach and what it means. So let's start off with an SLD curriculum. So this I've taken straight from some of the equals training I've been going on recently. So children and young people, adults with severe learning disabilities, they will learn in very different ways from neurotypically conventionally developing learners. And it's really important to acknowledge that a a diagnosis of global learning delay does not mean that a child is learning in a neurotypical way, just at a slower pace. It means that they're learning in a very different way, and there is no standard for that. It's down to us to be working together to work out, okay, well, what are the things that we've talked about? What's motivating the child? What are their strengths? What are their areas for development? But understanding that we can't just think that they will be able to just kind of easily tick over to the next box, the next box, the next box, the next box, just at a slower pace. We have to really think differently. So if they learn differently, we ought to be teaching them very differently, and teaching them very different things as well. And that's where we come in as a specialist academy. Why we're not a mainstream school. We're a specialist school because we work in very specialist ways. It's not differentiation, it is different. It takes a considerable amount of specialist knowledge and works on an entirely different time frame to mainstream education, no matter how differentiated the curriculum. So we are acknowledging that the goals that we are setting together, that's what's really important. And that is going to be why we do what we do with the students every day. So those EHCP outcomes, that's what it's all about. It's about how do we do everything, make sure we've got the right provision to enable your children to achieve those outcomes. Okay, so if I just flip back, so these are the three approaches. So we've got explore, connect, and apply. So the explore strand. So these are for our students who impulsively investigate the world through their sensory explorations. So they are gaining a huge amount of information through their sensory exploration, through exploring things with their mouths, through listening, through touch. There is a need, an urge. That's why I've put in there that impulsive nature. It's not necessarily a planned out process. This is what I'm going to do, then this is what I'm going to do. It's just a need. I've got this dinosaur mug, I need to put it in my mouth and see what that feels like. So for these students, we have to have very playful learning. It's experiential, and students are encouraged to have a go. That generally communication support will be at the earlier stages. So we'll be encouraging that understanding that actually you can initiate an interaction. So we'll use a strategy called intensive interaction. That works incredibly well with some of our students who are accessing the explore way of accessing the curriculum. Intensive interaction is a way of an adult, in its simplest form, a way of an adult mirroring what a child is doing. The intent of that is that the child will notice, okay, so if I move my arm, you're going to move your arm. And then they're building up that understanding that actually I'm controlling you. If I move both my arms up, you move both your arms up. And it's the beginning of that understanding of being able to initiate. And that's such a powerful thing to have achieved once that's there. Intensive interaction, absolutely one of the kind of key things that we'll use as a tool and as a teaching option for these learners. We might have students who are a bit more hesitant to come out of that comfort zone. They've got certain activities or objects that they really like. They might want to hold on to the dinosaur mug and carry that around with them for the day, which is absolutely fine. That's a safety blanket. They need that there for their regulation, but it's potentially a sign of they need a certain amount of regularity and familiarity. So the challenge then for those students is, as well as understanding that you can have a control over the world around you, you can make those interactions, is encouraging them to have a go at something new, try something out in a different way. If you like holding things and having them up close and mouthing them, why not try something different? Pick up the magic wand, carry the magic wand around, explore that. I've got some interesting things on my desk. You never know when you're going to need something. So that's the explore level. The next is the connect level. So this is for our students who are nurturing their knowledge connections and learning in collaboration. So they've got a huge amount of information about the world. They've gone through those processes of exploring through the senses. They will understand that if this has properties of something hard, they won't necessarily be able to verbalize that, but they know that if they bit into this, that might hurt their teeth, but actually biting into this green potato would be soft. So there's a huge amount of knowledge of the world around them, and it's about strengthening those connections, using those strengths, those areas that they know a huge amount about, and then being able to apply that into different contexts, being able to broaden that knowledge. And also the important bit there as well is about learning in collaboration as well. So those peer interactions are going to be really important. Students generally, will pick something up much quicker from another child than from an adult, and that's just kind of a general rule. So we'll be creating a lot of opportunities, a lot of repetition, which will then, we teach a skill, and then it will kind of ripple through the group as, one student picks it up, and then it's modeled to another student. So we'll be looking at developing specific strengths and perseverance as well. So that relates to problem solving. So this is something that we can start to look at once you've got this bank of knowledge, and I know that I can explore the world in different ways. I might have some understanding of properties of objects in this example, but now there's a problem. There's something that I know that I like a chocolate bar, but it's in something. So how can I use all my knowledge to actually work out how I can get into this box to get the chocolate bar out of there? Now that's quite a simple example, but I have to talk in quite simple terms to be able to express like these quite complex processes that our students will go through. But that problem solving and developing that perseverance, that actually, no, you stick with this, you'll get it, is a really important trait to be instilling as well. Classrooms have to be incredibly engaging contexts for mastering communication as well. So again, motivation is absolutely key. You've got to be motivated to be able to be a really effective communicator. So our classrooms, we can be as creative as we need to be to make sure that they are engaging. And the fact that, I'm calling it a context for learning, because, goes back to that flexibility. We'll set up lessons, we'll have lesson plans, but we have to be aware that we've got to have that flexibility. So we're just offering a context within which learning will happen. And we can't specifically direct it or steer it too much, because if we did that, we'd be, putting too many barriers up in place, and we might miss huge amounts of potential learning opportunities. Students could become dysregulated by that. Cross because actually, I'm not interested in this box with a chocolate bar in it over there. Not that I'd have that in my class in general, but actually I'm really interested in, something that's just happened in my class now. We're doing a lovely story and a follow-on activity afterwards, and then the bin lorry came to pick up the bins, and wow, what excitement from that. Within that context, then there's so many opportunities, and the discussions that were going on between my group was just incredible. The things that they were spotting, the people that they were seeing, the sounds that the lorry was making, what stage of emptying the bins the lorry was at, who's seen them, whose bins were out this morning. There's so much in there. So that's what I talk about when I talk about context for learning. Okay, next area is apply. So this is for our students who are applying their knowledge base to specific and real life applications. So they've really honed those knowledge bases, and now we're looking at putting that skills into specific scenarios. So this is where we see subject specific learning. So not fully in a formal curriculum sense, because we're still focused on that holistic progress, and we still want to make sure that we're looking at a student as a whole and what do they need, where are their areas of strengths, where are their areas for development. But we are beginning to apply those subject specific areas, and specifically that subject specificity is in literacy and numeracy, these incredibly important skills for independence and for their lives ahead of them. So students have and develop their own ideas, they make links between ideas, and they develop strategies for doing things. So again, it's that toolkit of, okay, here is a scenario, I need to build up all of the different approaches to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. That moving towards having own ideas and links between ideas shows the kind of complexity of thought that's coming in at this point. Again, collaboration with others is going to be incredibly key in this stage as well. And then building up your own strategies. So this is where, you know, the perseverance has paid off, and a child is ready to kind of add things to that toolbox that they've come up with themselves. We work very closely, and in a time away from COVID, we'll work even closer with the formal department at this stage as well, because very often, you know, a student who is only in one of these areas, learning in only one of these ways, is quite rare, really. You know, very often, actually, there may be a student who's at this level, but actually, basic literacy skills isn't enough. You know, we need to be accessing formal English lessons. You know, they're a great reader, their comprehension is brilliant, and actually, we want to be pushing them on even more. And absolutely, that is something that we will do. And have opportunities for that to happen. You know, we're never ever going to put that ceiling on a student and say, no, this is what the intent is that we wrote, you know, at the start of the year. So why do we need to go beyond that? That's not what the intent is there for. You know, that's to give us that broad goal that we're aiming for with all of the students. But ultimately, you know, we're working with you as families and your children to ensure that we're giving them the best opportunities for their progression. Okay, so process-based teaching. I know you've all been looking forward to this, to the in-depth explanation. So it's all about the process rather than the product. So, and not just any old process, having a really quality process. So let me put this into the context of a lesson. So the art lesson that we were talking about earlier. The outcome that I may set as my art session is that we are looking at pictures of flowers. So we'll explore photography, photos of flowers, we'll explore models, we'll explore painting, pencil drawings, all sorts of things, to make that lesson meaningful and for students to understand that intended outcome, the product at the end of the lesson. But actually, I'm not fussed, really. The end result can be beautiful, it can be never reached, it doesn't matter. Actually, what I'm looking for in that lesson is what is the quality process that the children are going to go through as they're working towards that outcome, that end product. You know, as they discover, it's the first time I'm using paint to multiple colors on one picture where I'm trying to represent something. In the past, I've been printing shapes and doing abstract pictures, or an adult's been supporting me maybe a bit too much, but this is my first time exploring, and actually I've seen that my blue flower and my yellow flower have mixed together, and actually now I've got a green flower, and I didn't like that, but actually it's okay because I asked if I could start again, or I then liked the green flower and I made a thing out of that. That journey that the student is going on, that's the most important thing there. The quality process, not the quality product at the end. Pupils learn by doing, by being successful in their doing, and by practicing over and over again, rather like learning to ride a bike or dancing. You've just got to keep repeating, keep trying, keep reflecting, looking back, am I doing that right? Is what I think I'm doing, is that what other people are seeing? So, in this art example, when they mixed the two colors together and got a different color, did they like that? Are they just remembering that actually I know that there's some way of mixing colors together, but actually I'm not quite sure. So by repeating that activity, by repeating it in different contexts, perhaps we'll mix different colored waters, perhaps we'll do exactly the same lesson again. That's okay. That's how this process-based teaching model really helps them to acquire that knowledge and those skills that we were talking about. So that's the process-based teaching approach. There's times of the year, especially Christmas as one that springs to mind, where, of course we do have products and things, and we do care about the product as well. Particularly, students can be really proud of the product as well. So I'm not trying to devalue the end result as well. I'm just saying the most valuable learning generally that we get is from the quality of the process rather than the quality of the product. We're not overly worried about that end product. There'll be times when PE is another example. We'll spend a huge amount of time learning the skills of cooperation and play and the rules of a game. And actually, the game that we then play at the end of the term is really important as well. And there's a huge amount of learning, but it's not all about that. We mustn't forget all of the learning that's come before in that quality process. Okay, next. So we're looking at the areas of learning. So these aren't the subjects that we teach. These are the areas of learning within the semi-formal curriculum. So this is the equal stuff that I was talking about. So if you did want any more information, then you can have a look there on the equals website. But you can see here it's absolutely learner focused. So that's why it's represented in this circle with the learner in the middle. You've then got the blue center circle, and those are the kind of prime areas of learning. My communication, I've already stressed it, that's absolutely key. My play and leisure, which of course leads on to social interaction, and also leisure being something that we may overlook sometimes, but actually helping our children to understand what is it that helps them to regulate, what is it that helps them to be a hobby that they enjoy, to be that bond with another child. My independence and my thinking and problem solving. So these are kind of the prime areas. And then in the green outer circle, you've got kind of the creative side over on the right hand side there. So you've got music, dance, art, drama. The reason that those do look like subjects, and they're great examples of hugely open-ended activities. I've already given you the example of an art lesson, but the information that additional information that we get from equals, suggested activities, that sort of thing, it kind of really highlights how open-ended the creative subjects are, and how accessible they are, and how they can be adapted so that any student can thrive within them. Then over on the left hand side, you can see, starting from the top, we've got my physical well-being. So that's the fitness side of things, as well as healthy eating, those kind of areas of education that are really important for students to know at the moment, but especially when they're older and looking at their lives beyond Sevendale. My outdoor school, again, motivation. The outdoors is incredibly motivating. So as you know, at Sevendale we have a huge focus on outdoor learning, with our forest school that we have. So it's here, it's part of the curriculum. Then we have my citizenship and the world about me, and these areas of learning, they're brilliant context again for open-ended opportunities. You can put anything into the world about me, basically, and it helps that broad, balanced picture, that holistic learning. It's a great opportunity for applying the blue core skills that they've been learning into kind of a real meaningful context. Oh, I should have done the zooming in. I've already covered this now. I preferred the way I separated it out before, actually. I thought I'd do it in quarters, but no. And then just a slight difference. So this is where I talked about the shift of focus, so away from communication and thinking and problem solving to that actually, we've got those communication skills, we've got those problem solving skills. Now we want to apply those into specific scenarios. So that's where we do become mathematical thinkers. We do become literate explorers as well. So we've got the maths and the English appearing within that kind of apply strand here as well. And then within the outer ring, we still have the other model as well, but you can just see there's just a slight change in emphasis on which areas are there. But as I say, we do still keep some of these other green ones. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see where I'm pointing. I've got a mouse, I can use that. These ones. Okay. So then the final section in the implementation part is themes and the thematic approach. So we've talked about how at Sevendale, we've decided that we're having a thematic approach to learning, and that's something that, we're such a big school, it's great to have something that ties us all together. So of all of the Key Stage 1 children who are working in the different curriculum departments, there is a theme, and there are elements that are similar that ties us all together. We're not just working in isolation. So themes enable incredibly engaging context for learning. For teachers, a theme is brilliant. A theme within the school for next half term is space. So, I've got teachers talking about turning their classrooms into solar systems and having beautiful displays and creating incredibly engaging context for learning within their classrooms. Having themes, it enables us to really personalize the learning for our students as well. So, they'll be involved in what themes would you like to do? What are you interested in? And all of that is part of our discussions as we're planning as teachers. We'll say, well, actually, no, that would work really well and for this student because they've got a particular interest in this. And then another teacher will say, oh yeah, brilliant, that would work really well for this student as well. And then you've got, again, opportunities for that collaboration. Thematic approach, it enables the application and review of prior learning, making that learning concrete. So that art example with discovering incidentally mixing colours, it remains an engaging activity to be doing because you've done it when you've been learning about nature and plants, and that's been your kind of focus and topic for learning. But again, when you're exploring, doing pictures of a planet, again, you've got opportunities for that repetition and review of prior learning in mixing colours again within that specific theme. Themes, they have to be open-ended opportunities. So I've given the example here of space and how we would give our teachers that kind of starting point to be as open-ended as possible rather than really specific. So space, we could have our planet, out of this world, the solar system, the sun and the stars, the pale blue dot, life on Mars. Anything could be the thing that actually sparks the imagination and creativity of that teacher and of the children within the class as well. One thing that you have to be careful of with themes is trying to avoid being too abstract as well. So this is something, again, that's come from the equals training that I've been doing recently. Is we can get really wacky with themes, but actually if we're picking something that is too abstract and we can't give real examples, then that's when actually is the theme becoming a bit of a barrier to a student having a greater understanding of something. If it's the flowers, how are you actually able to grab some flowers and hold on to them, smell them? Space, can you have the opportunity to go out and look at the sky and see the sun, to see things within our environment, to look at pictures, to see the stars, try to make something as concrete as possible and avoid the abstract. Okay, so we're doing okay for time, but I do need to speed up slightly. Thinking about then the impact. So how do we know that we are achieving against the intent? So the things that we will be looking at in terms of impact, number one are the EHCP outcomes. So those meetings that we have, the discussions, the formal and informal discussions that we have all the time, how we review and progress those outcomes, that is showing us the impact that the curriculum is happening, the impact the curriculum is having on those EHCP outcomes. So what do we need to adapt within those outcomes? What are the next steps? All of that, it's evidencing the impact of the curriculum. Communication development, again, through having all of these open-ended, more flexible contexts for learning, you're enabling much more communication, deep and meaningful, motivating communication. Take you back to the bin lorry example that's just happened in my class. You know, the communication that was happening there was, you know, I could never have planned an activity that would have that would guarantee that kind of level of communication going on. It's all about seizing those opportunities and then reflecting on that communication development. Social interaction, so, you know, as communication is developing, that social interaction, play, the development of play, moving through the different stages of play, from solitary play to parallel play, social play, all of those different stages, we'll see that progression and that development. And then, of course, looking at independent skills and skills for life, particularly important with our older students, but it's something that we start very, very young. You know, the whole focus is on preparation for what's next. That's the whole point of the curriculum, is what are you preparing for the next step. So our next slide looks at some of the assessment systems that we use. So we do have accreditations within the semi-formal department as well. One of the main ones that we're using at the moment is ASDAN. So we use that with our older students. Once students get to secondary age, then they have the opportunity to learn and gain accreditations in against that. We're looking at other accreditations as well, making sure that we have the most relevant and motivating accreditations. We're not just doing it for the sake of doing an accreditation. It has to be meaningful for the students. Younger students, the phonics screening test, that's another accreditation that some of our students will be accessing as well, and everybody has the opportunity to explore an accreditation as well. We're this term here, ipsative assessment. So that means that we look at students, we compare a student's learning against their prior learning. So we don't compare students against each other and their peers. We're looking at, okay, well, what has been your rate of progress up to this point? And we use that as kind of a benchmark for how they're going to then be progressing as well. So ipsative assessment is the term that we use. We're going to be starting to use a observation app as well. So some of you may have been aware of Tapestry, which was used in nursery and in reception. So this is a similar sort of app, but more age appropriate, and it's called Evidence for Learning. And the hope is that we have the home access as well, so that, you know, immediately we can share the achievements and the successes that your children are having in school with you at home, and likewise you can be sharing those achievements and successes at home with us in school as well, and it just helps build that complete picture of your children and their progress that they're making. The assessment system that we're using, so there's been a change in the world of special educational needs. Up to this year, we we're required to use the P scales, the pre-national curriculum scales. So you may have heard teachers talking about levels and P1, P2, P4, P8. That's no longer a statutory requirement. So we'll still make reference to these because it's useful to have that kind of collective language that we use. But the assessment system that we're going to be using within the semi-formal department is part of Equals, the Equals offer, and it's called MAP Milestones, mapping and assessing pupil progress. And it's very much a map rather than a ladder. So there's lots of different routes that you can take towards an outcome. It's not that predefined steps up, rungs up a ladder like we've talked about. You can move in any different way to get towards that outcome. Transition to other curriculum pathways, it's an absolute option and something that we work very closely with the other curriculum departments, which we've already talked about. And then looking at making sure we have tangible outcomes post-16 as well. So looking at what is that transition then from the semi-formal department, whether it's to sixth form, to futures, or to another provision, making sure that all of those potential outcomes are there and in place. And that's the impact. So that kind of wraps up the semi-formal curriculum in terms of the intent, implementation and impact. As I say, there's so much more that we could go into and different levels. The Equals website, www.equals.co.uk, could be something that you might choose to look at to give you a bit more information, or to ask for a follow-up conversation, or send a question to Maria, that sort of thing. The curriculum, it's a working curriculum. It's constantly developing, taking into account different cohorts of students and different changes in need, and changes within the world. I mean, just take one area of technology and look how much that's developing, and how different things will be. Is there point in us purchasing new laptops to explore, or is it better to look at iPads and that kind of thing? We have to be responsive to the world around us. We would welcome any feedback or questions about the curriculum or the department. So I'd really appreciate if you sent any feedback to me. I'd really value that. And finally, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join the presentation, and I'll leave Maria's email address up here. It's not double dot at the end, that's just my typing. But any further questions or comments, if you can contact Maria Whitaker, she's sort of collating all of the questions as they come in, and directing them at the right people. I can't see any of you at the moment. I'm going to press my stop presenting button so that I can see everyone. Is it stopping? There we go. People are still there. That's good. I couldn't see anyone then. I could have just been talking at a blank screen, couldn't I? Okay, I'm going to press stop on the recording.